Okay, welcome to another Discord office hours with Cycling 74. This is a extra special, unique uh office hours. It's not your normal one-on-one format. We're really excited to have the folks along from Showsync. If you're not familiar with Showsync, stick around for the next hour or so because you will be familiar with Showsync by the end of their presentation. Uh, they have created an excellent package called Beam for Max, and there's several other packages that they've also made in the past. This latest one is what we'll be focusing on today. So it's a great pleasure of mine to introduce Hide, Luca, and John Paul. They're going to give us a presentation on. He's Jean Paul's in the back there. He's making it all happen. Uh, they're going to give us a presentation on Beam for Max. If you're not familiar with Beam for Max, it's a lighting package. Very incredible lighting package, and I'll talk more about what I like about it in later on. But without further ado, I want to just hand the floor over to Hide and Luca and Jean Paul. Welcome, guys.
Oh, hey. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having us.
Excited to have you guys here. DMX is
Yeah,
one of those things. It's like I liken it. In the past, I've likened it to something like Sysex. like it's almost more dark and unknown than MIDI. It's
right.
almost as old as MIDI. And yeah, I think one of those things for Max users was unless you had an object, there was a few objects that came along, but they weren't supported for very long. Um, and unless you were game to take on the serial object,
Yeah.
which I question anyone's sanity, then yeah, DMX was not easy in Max. Yeah.
It's not a great starter, I guess, to something like in in principle, DMX is not that complex.
Right,
I mean,
right,
if you compare it to SysX, like SysX is something that scares me.
right, right.
But DMX, there's not like that much to it. But indeed, it always felt like this missing feature in Max. Like Max has so much, all like the MIDI, the audio, the video stuff, and like to me, lighting always seemed like this kind of like obvious gap in what Max offers, which is like one of the main reasons, of course, why we built this package in
Mm,
the first place. And indeed, you can do some DMX stuff already. I think already for quite some years with the serial object. There are
yeah.
also some uh, cool objects like the NTEC DMX USB Pro one. There are some ArtNet objects, but I think these always kind of suffered from a lack of maintenance and Apple Silicon comes out, objects are not updated. You need
Yeah.
to launch Macs on the Rosetta to be able to use those objects. So it's always seemed like something that's more of a pain than it should be.
Mm, mm. Yeah, my experience there was just simply like I would stick to the serial object because I knew that it would, for compatibility. So when silicon whatever came around, I always knew it would work. But the complexity of working with the serial object meant that all I would do is I would get in, I'd do the lighting thing that I needed to do, and I would get out. Like I wouldn't stick around and like play around and experiment like because of the complexity like
I
and I'm
think I
finding with your
that's
package like the
yeah,
the playability is it's brought the fun to
yeah.
DMX for me like
That's absolutely like the other main reason why we built it. I think, you know, like I said, like there's not too much to DMX. Like it's basically a big list of values, but managing, like building your patch and turning your ideas into one big list of values, it's like not a creative kind of workflow, right? It's like this bookkeeping, and then especially if you need to figure out how to send that over to a serial object, then you're so far off from making stuff, right? And I think like that's not, in my opinion, what Max is, what the strongest thing is from Max, right? What
Right.
Max is really good at is like combining different disciplines to just put an object in, connect some patch ports, see something change. Like I had a lot of fun with the jitter objects when I started.
Right.
I just have matrices, doing operations on them, combining them, and you see what comes out, and creating a list of DMX values is like the furthest away of that experience. And I like, we made it quite a big, I guess, design principle of the package is to bring this playfulness that Max has, and the ability to connect audio and video and sensors and like this whole offering that Max has, to just be able to connect that to the world of DMX and lighting, uh, as easy and intuitive and creative as possible.
But it's also, I think, uh, especially important because lights are something that you often don't have at home. Well, you can buy a couple of cheap lights and have them in your bedroom, but I think it's more of a thing than with speakers, because if you're working with sound, any pair of speakers will do the same thing, but often you will have an opportunity to play at your local venue, or you have a theater that has a bunch of cool lights, but
Yeah.
then you always just come in just a couple of hours before the show, and then maybe you are a Max nerd and you love to tinker around with serial or whatnot, but then yeah, if there is just a bit few steps less, I guess that
Yeah,
already practically makes it a little bit more likely that you will use the lights
absolutely.
in the venue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's also indeed like a big part of the design principle is that every light is different. Like you say, we'll get into some like fundamentals of DMX in a sec, but like every light is different. They have different capabilities. uh, if your whole patch is about like making the DMX list in the right format, as soon as you swap out a light for something else, or you are suddenly dealing with like 8 lights instead of 4, then you often need to like rip up your patch again. And this flexibility of being able to like swap out some stuff is well, in Beam for Max a big principle, but like we also, it's called Beam for Max because we also have a product called Beam for Live, which is kind of like the same system but then integrated in Ableton Live, where you can use the tracks and instruments and effects. uh, and we don't want you to change your patch or your live sets significantly if suddenly you have to deal with a different light.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I have noticed the different lights. Like you, especially if you buy the cheap ones from Amazon, it's like
Yeah.
that they don't all work the same. But the
I
general
like,
principle is the same.
yeah, and it's like I've seen, I sometimes you just come across lighting fixtures and you're like, like why is it like this? Like then the strobe rate is inverted. So value 255 means that it's low and 0 means that it's very rapid. And
Oh wow.
then the other one is inverted again, and it's a huge pain.
Yeah, it's it's really interesting though that like I something I've become more conscious of is like uh we have a real mix of video projectors in venues now. So you go to a venue and you might get a projector. The venue's like, yeah, we've got a projector and it's like 720p. It's an Epson from 2005. And, or it's some 5K, 8K monstrosity that your computer, needs a special driver to connect to and blah, blah, blah. Lighting is actually more consistent in that like there's just one protocol to link into. It doesn't matter what, I mean it does, but like what the lights do. But if you can connect, you're eight tenths of the way there. And the other thing is, it's like just as visually engaging now. I mean, it's got to this point where almost every live performance you see has video, and it's like
Right.
we are inundated with video
Yeah.
every time we open our phone or computer or whatever. But just lighting is such a fun thing to play with, and what you can do with it, performing and that. Yeah.
Totally. And I like video is like the hurdle to do something with video is a bit lower, right? Because you have like your laptop, it has now again the MacBooks have an HDMI output, and you can generally connect it up to a projector, and you're sort of like good to go. While with lighting, it's like if you go to a venue and if you have all these lights, like how do you connect to it? And needing to like buy a lighting desk of which the price is already quite high if you get into like the entry level lighting desks, and you still need to learn how it works, and it's like a huge jump to actually start
Right.
doing anything with lighting. And our hopes with the tools that we make is to like lower this barrier a little bit, and especially like people who just want to control a couple of lights, of for whom this jump is like too much for the
Right.
ambitions
Right.
that they have. Then just make a max patch and control your lights, and connect it up to a sensor, and there you go.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, who wants to be dragging a lighting, as a solo performer myself or others, like, it's you're not gonna have a lighting desk with you on stage, but having a max patch that's responding to either your video or your sound or whatever is totally feasible. And another kind of creative element to have in your toolkit as a live performer.
Yeah,
And I've seen those lighting desks. I mean, they just like DMX lights. They vary greatly in
yeah.
capacity and size and functionality. I mean, I can't imagine people walking into different rooms and immediately knowing how to work them.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's hard.
That's a niche on its own, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it's a profession on its own. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Maybe we should just like show some stuff of the package.
yeah.
Like
Let's
we
have a
we
look.
prepared like a little walkthrough. So my plan is to like show a couple of the different parts that are in the package. We're gonna make like a very basic patch, like what is what are the essential elements to get something happening. And we've also got this set up here. So at some point we'll like switch to these slides, have some fun with that, go back again, go through some objects, and we made some example patches where we can like show how like I guess the creative ideas and the inspiration we had, and then we have some time for
For
questions, I
questions?
guess. So I'll
Yeah.
also keep an eye on the the questions, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think,
you guys feel free. We can. I see Greg's question here. We can get to that
yeah,
after your presentation. Um, yeah.
cool. Then I'll start with sharing screen. Let me see, I can see it, great. And we've got Max here. And Beam for Max at this moment is a featured package. So if you go to the package manager, you can just click on it, install it, and you should be ready to go. If you've installed it under extras, you'll see this menu. And let me start with the overview,
Come
which is
Come on.
kind of like your entry point when you start out with Beam for Max. The first thing I want to point out is this part, the license manager. Just to be clear, Beam for Max is a paid package. So if you want to use it without any limitations, you need to purchase a license for it. And you can do that on our website. And then you just put it in, it unlocks. The limitation, if you don't have a license, is just that the DMX output gets like paused every once in a while. So it goes down to 0, your lights turn off, and then a couple of seconds later they go back up. So you should be able to play around with it. There are no other limitations. It's just the DMX output. But once you got a good feeling for it, then if you want to use it for performances, for instance, or in installations, you can unlock it with a license. Then we've got this, and this actually already touches on a question of Greg and an answer that Siegel gave about capture, because indeed, we talked about needing to bring your lights with you. I do a lot of max patching when in transit. So I'm in the train, and like with audio, it's easy. You put on your headphones and you can play around with jitter. You have your little window, but you can't really bring your actual physical lights with you on the train and start making a little disco there. So what we have is we ship with a demo set, and this demo set is actually some sort of a runtime version of Capture, this software that Sibyl mentioned. And this is software that we didn't build. It's made by a company. I think they're also called Capture.
Yeah.
Nice and straightforward. But this is software that like visualizes what physical lights would do if you would send them the same DMX signals. So we ship with this in the package, and you'll be able to check out all the help files and some demos, walkthroughs with this visualizer and play around with it. So you don't need to immediately buy hardware if you want to do anything. Then we also have a monitor, and this monitor is a way for you to see what the DMX values are that are being sent out. So like this is basically that list that you would have to make yourself in the past. Now Beam for Max does this for you, and this is what it sends out. And what you can see is that there are already a couple of DMX values being set. And this is because we work with the concept of fixture profiles and fixtures, and telling the software which lights you have instead of working with the raw DMX itself. I can show a little part of this introduction into lighting control. Like if you're not familiar with DMX and lighting control, we've got like a basic tutorial of how it works. But I think what you need to know is generally you have a bunch of fixtures. So a fixture is a light. You have maybe, well, we've got two moving heads here. We've got one strobe here and two laser uh, devices. And these are all connected by an XLR cable. So this XLR cable goes from our DMX interface, which we connect to our computer, and that DMX interface is connected to these lights uh, with like one cable being daisy chained. So all these lights in the back, they all receive the same list of numbers. They all receive this, but how can you make sure that this light is not doing the exact same thing as that other light? That's something we call patching. So I think that's maybe here or here. Yes. So imagine we've got these two moving heads and two strobes. Then, this moving head might have 15 channels that it listens to. So usually like 15 capabilities. Like you've got panning, you've got tilt, you've got RGB, maybe you've got some effects onto it. And like very quickly, especially with moving heads, these number of channels, they add up. And by defining where in this list a certain fixture is listening to, you can make sure that that light only listens to the first like 15 values, the other one, the second row of 15 values, and etc. This concept is called patching as well. It's a bit of an unfortunate collision of terms in the world of Macs. So I hope I'm not like mixing up them too much in a confusing way. But to tell Beam for Macs which lights you have and where they are patched to in this DMX row, you use the patch editor. So you can click here, or you've got the patch editor here. And this is a way to like add new fixtures to the list. This is a list of fixtures that we ship with. And if I click now it should all work. I think here you can see that if I press this test on button, the light there will turn on. There you go. So we've got a bunch of different lights in our virtual space. And by kind of like mirroring what this program knows about which fixtures it has on what addresses, you would do the same with like a real life setup in a venue. If we mirror that here, Beam for Macs will handle all the calculations and translations of the data like this test button into the proper DMX values. Just a little note on these fixtures. There are a gazillion amount of different lights, and we ship with quite a library, but it's not complete. If you want, you can build your own fixtures or the fixture profiles. These are just JSON files, and these basically tell our software how a certain light behaves. So you can build these fixture profiles yourself by editing the JSON. We've got a schema as well that explains how the JSON is structured. And here is an experimental online fixture editor that you can use to build your fixture profile in a bit more of a convenient way if you're not in the looking into looking at excitingly looking at the JSON files. Then I guess the final part in the basics is the IO editor. So once we went through like the fixture profiles and the patch editor, we've got like this DMX list that we want to send, but where do we want to send it to? And this is defined in the IO editor. So here you can choose like ArtNet outputs. If we'll be using an ArtNet node later on, so you see us configuring that one. We also support a set of USB devices like the NTEC DMX devices. Here we've got the DMX Pro, so you just connect it up to USB and it shows up here. And the CITP thing is for capture. So that's why this one is selected now, and that means that Beam sends its data to capture. Good. I think this is like, oh wait, we actually made a little diagram here. So you've got the max patch. It contains Beam objects. We'll start looking into them directly after this. So you use objects in your max patch to interact with the lights. That is controlling with like the internals of Beam. And through the fixture profiles and the fixture patch and the IO editor settings, we end up sending ArtNet or USB to your DMX interface, and this is then chained to your lighting fixtures. So how does a simple Beam patch, what does it look like? So the best, I think, sort of like mental image of how Beam works is by comparing it to MSP. You'll notice that even if, and I'll just create these objects already in the tag, you'll notice that like MSP, these Beam patch cords can't connect to any, like every object. This is because it's like its own special sort of graph, like MSP is as well. And like in MSP, you have certain objects that generate signals, and you have objects that kind of like modify the signals. And then you've got objects that are like destinations for these signals. So I guess the most basic patch in MSP would be cycle tilde connected to DAC. And this is roughly the equivalent of such a patch, but then in Beam. And Beam.tag is like the most straightforward object that can generate Beam signals. Now, what is a tag? Like, how can we make this object control the lights that we have here? For that, we go back to the patch editor again. And if we now select this light, for instance, what we see is that here under tags, we gave it a name called side beams. And all the different lights, like all these high-end studio lights, they have the same tag. And this is a user-defined tag. You can name it whatever you want. You can also add multiple tags to the same light. We'll get to that later. But what I can do is I can just type side beams here, then right-click, and the messages that show up here are the ones that are recognized by this set of lights. So let's start with dim. And the only thing I need to do is like turn up the dim message and tell all these lights with the side beam tag, I want the intensity or the dim to go up. We can add more messages, of course. This one can show color. You can do that. You can set the color with the red, green, and blue messages. But there's also one called RGB, which is the shorthand to kind of like set them all in one go. So if we connect swatch to it, and patch this like this, you see that the RGB colors that we're sending in are sent to these lights. And there's a lot of stuff happening actually in the back. Like you can see the monitor here. If we move this around, you see that it converts these values into DMX. And depending on the light that you have, like some moving heads are not in RGB color space, but are like CMY. There are lights that have RGBW with an extra light, white color LEDs in it. And Beam will handle all these conversions between color spaces for you. So you just think in RGB, you say like, I want them to be red. And then regardless of what kind of fixture it is and what it can do, it will do the proper translations for you. These moving heads also can move. That's why they're called moving heads. So if we send in the tilt message, we can start moving them. We can duplicate this. And I think, or I hope that you see that, you know, there's not that much to it to just like make these fixtures move and change the color. And most of this is actually also like Max, right? You use message boxes, you use swatch for color. We don't have like special beam objects for that. So, you know, if you want to make a little ramp of this, well, we can actually do it. You know, we can use line 1, and let's do it in 3 seconds. I think this works. So you make a little ramp like this. So like most of the stuff you know from Max is immediately applicable to this. Now on my list of things to do is actually controlling the lights here in the back. So we'll need to do like a little swapperoo maneuver, a little maneuver. So maybe what would be cool, let's see if that works. So we've got the ArcNet nodes, and now Luca is going to connect our ArcNet nodes with Ethernet to our machine. And if we programmed it well,
I think because it's a view menu.
there we go.
Yes.
It shows up. Is it one universe? So this will be good, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there we go already. Let me clear this. So right now, stuff starts to like work already, which is because we had the previous profile with the fixtures, some DMX values that are like not properly formatted to these lights are now sent to that. So I'm just gonna do like a quick thing to reset it. And then we saved our patch. So these patch files are also JSON. You can save them, you can open them. We've got fixture patches and then the room. So this one is now set up. I don't know if you, like anytime I click the test button, you see a brief flash of the atomic behind me. And, oh yeah, so this is now working, and you made a little example that we're gonna...
So one of the first things you want to do in Max with anything is control it with your laptop's microphone, of course. And you could use beam.tag and I guess snapshot or pcamp object and pipe that into one of the parameters going into beam.tag. But what we have in the Beam for Max object family is also an object that can directly take MSP signal values and then map them to whatever picture modulation parameter you specify. So over here, we've got param attribute dim. So yeah.
This is always a fun.
That's probably what you should do when you start playing around with Beam for Max, but that also gets old pretty quick, or not if you make some cool music with that. But we will get back to more signal controlled lighting in a bit. First, let's do something that's appropriate considering that we are in a Discord, namely
Have some smoke as well.
we've got here a little gaming patch. So here is PS5 controller using the famous object of this season, the gamepad. So I think we need a bit more smoke.
Yeah, so you connected the touchpad to the strobe, and going to the side will increase the rate and the duration, I think.
So to the right, I think it's dim, and then on this axis we mapped strobe rate. And over here we've got the two lasers, which we can also control the strobe rate of with this axis. I think the smoke machine needs to refill. And then, yeah, we can control the X and Y position of the laser beams. And we also got these two moving heads. So I think, yeah, people should make some user-friendly lighting with this stuff. Yeah.
I think Kyle also recently shared
just today.
The certified trainer also shared a cool video with the gamepad object. Great. I think so. Right now, what we also thought would be cool, like we'll be diving into some like more details in a bit. Luca has done some cool performances or like installations with Beam for Max and some others as well. So we thought we'd take a bit of time to show some of these performances. So
actually,
maybe you just go.
I will show one where I worked on as a technical artist with composer Igor C. Silva. He makes really cool audiovisual, very tightly synchronized sound and visual works. So he composed this installation, which was an installation, but also an installation that was kind of running on its own, but also people could interact with it via a bunch of Kinect sensors that were, we used that as infrared cameras, basically going into CV JIT, and then controlling some of the lights in this installation. And then there was also some musicians from the ensemble Lucilene. in Luxembourg who actually invited us to make this happen. So this installation happened, I think, already 2 years ago. So Beam4Max was still a secret, but it was actually Beam4Max has been in a kind of performance ready state for like 90% there for quite some time, but because there are so many layers to getting started with lighting and with Beam, we needed some more time to yeah, figure this out. But nevertheless. So basically, Igor composed this whole score that had some fixed elements, and some of it was musicians interacting with it. And he had worked with lights before, but he had a lot on his mind composing wise. So he asked me if I could make his MIDI node data and MIDI CC data mapped to the lights we had. And basically, he just planned it all really well and gave me a recipe. So then when we plugged it all in, it just kind of looked like that already. There are a few more. Anyway, indeed, we still have a lot to show, so let's just keep moving. Maybe I will show one more example from fellow Max nerd and a great artist, Alex Brakovic. So here he made an installation where he used Beam4Max for controlling bubble machines. So with DMX, you can control quite a range of different devices. But yeah, let's get back into the max patcher.
Some max patching, and we also want to have some time for questions, etc. Right. So now I'm supposed to show you some of the objects that we actually have. I think we need to disconnect the IO, this thing, and we'll also mark it offline because we disconnected it. The visualizer like this. Then we can, we'll use the actual capture. And I need to connect it to this thing. Oh. Oh. Is that because
you still need the patch?
There we go. So you could make the our video window a little bit smaller. We'll go back to some visualizations.
Yeah, I'll make it a bit smaller. Is it okay where it is right now, or this side?
I think that works. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks. So when we go back to the overview, we see a list of the objects that we ship with here. Clicking on them will open the help files. So this is the one for beam.tech that we already looked at. Here, turning on the DIM, we'll now control the fixtures with the tag Europe's. One feature of beam.tag is that you can also send in lists of values. So if you have, these fixtures with side beams that we have, it was not just one, it was, I think we have 10 of them. By sending in lists of values, these values are distributed over these lights. So in this case, the pars, I think they're a bit more, like 12 or 16. As you can see, like sending in a list of 4 will now like split up these lights in groups of 4, and that allows you to control this specific modulation separately. Beam.output, we talked about that very briefly about beam.core. This is the object that allows you to interact with like the internals. So we've been using the patch editor and the IO editor. These are just max patches. Like if you can open it up, it's a lot of like bpatchers nested and JavaScript magic. But in the end, what it does, it creates a dictionary that defines what this patch looks like. So I can send the message get patch, and basically this is the data that Beam needs to know how to create this DMX list. So knowing that you can get and set all this data as dictionaries as well, you can imagine building your own interface for it. You can embed these dictionaries in your patch, make them, load automatically when your patch loads or whatever, swap between them from like, connected up to UDP receive and somehow swap patches or the IO settings remotely. Won't get too much into it, but just wanting to point that out. We looked at beam.catch, but only also very briefly. So with beam.catch, you can send in audio signals in the right inlets, and with the param attribute, you define what like parameter that you would send in beam.tag. You can define which one gets controlled by this audio signal. So here we've got a little loop, and you can just control a whole group of lights with one patch cord like this. We also support MC, and like these lists of values that we send in beam.tag, MC does the same kind of thing. So here we've got 5-channel, multi-channel cycle objects with a deviate. So all these sine waves are like slightly out of phase with each other. And by connecting that up to beam.catch, these values will be distributed over the fixture. So a group of lights suddenly can like move individually, also just by connecting one patch cord. And you can imagine like making a lot of complicated audio systems that then control your pan or tilt, and that's actually what Luca will be showing in a bit as well.
And actually, even you don't need to think in terms of mapping sound to lighting. I think MC objects are just really, they kind of fit in this lighting control paradigm of generating a bunch of lists. So MC is actually one of my favorite ways to control lights, even when it's not about sound.
Yeah. I mean, well, the next object also shows that, I think, really well. But I guess the basic concept is that whether it's like video or audio, in principle, it's just data. right? And you can connect that data up to something else. In this case, we use beam.matrix, which is a way to map jitter matrices to lighting signals. So here again, we're using the param attribute to say map the values of this jitter matrix into to the dim value of these lights. So you can see if I turn this little dial, this pixel goes up. This is read by this object to define what the dim is of that specific light. You can also control multiple planes with it. So if you have a 3-plane texture and you put it in, then these planes will be used to set the parameters that you set here. So in case setting red, green, blue, like a 3-plane colored jitter matrix is, you actually get a pixel mapping immediately. So can use JIT noise to change the color of these lights very easily. And it does, like, even though it is a jitter matrix and it has color, like, because it's just data, we can also map it to pan or tilt. So here we're using JIT BFG to create some noise. And these noise patterns are then mapped to the panning and tilt of these moving heads. There's more to it related to like the dimensions, etc. I don't think it's worth going into that too much. These help files should be comprehensive enough. Small one, beam.op, but can be very useful. It's more, I guess, like a utility, or actually use this one, a utility object. Here we can multiply tilt. We're multiplying certain modulation values with values coming from the right inlet. So here by, using a line object and multiplying the pan and the dim, we can sort of like make a full movement and fade out. This is also especially useful if you, for instance, want to create a blackout button. So if I add this object here and I connect a toggle to it, then right now multiplying all the dim values by 0 of all these lights coming from these tags will just create an immediate blackout. Don't save. Join, I'm not gonna go into it. We've got beam send and beam receive. This is similar to receive tilde and send tilde, but works with beam signals. Here we've got some objects that we'll get into more as well with an example, but these allow you to turn these beam signals that you're modifying into dictionaries. So with beam.sig, you can read from a beam signal into a dictionary, and with the other way around.
Generate.
Yeah, so beam.snapshot is reading a beam signal. So if I move this one up, you can see the value change here. And with beam.sig, we can put in dictionaries and create a beam signal. And so an example later will show how that can be very powerful as well. Then was a question about some lower level stuff, and here is the beam DMX IO object is useful. This one allows you to get the raw DMX values, but also create raw DMX values by yourself. So if you're not interested in this beam tag stuff, in all the other objects and whatever, you just want, use your raw DMX values, you can leverage all the like cross-platform support, USB and ArtNet support that Beam4Max offers with raw DMX values. And the way that works is through dictionaries. So this is the list of DMX values for universe like 11111. So in this case, like if we want to send out universe 1 with certain DMX values, we can do it like this. And we can just use dict pack and all these kinds of objects to generate this list for us and put it in a dictionary, pass it along to beam.dmx IO, and we're cool. This is like a quick overview of like, I think the most important and creative objects we have. I skipped over a couple. Some of them are like more utilitarian, but they have like some cool creative features as well. You like check out the help files if you want to learn more about them. Then I thought I'd spend some time solving one relatively simple problem in 4 different ways, just to show how you can leverage different objects within Beam for Max. So I'll switch here to the 4 parse. I think, okay, I think we're still good. I'll go to the patch editor, open this one. Yeah. Cool. So here I've got 4 parse, RGB parse. And like we can see in the patch editor, just check here. These all have the par tag. So to control them, we do beam tag par, beam.output. And if I send in beam one, we all have them working. The thing that I want to do is control red, green, and blue for these 4 parts individually. And there are a couple of ways to do that. The first one I'd like to show is using these lists that we have. So just sending in one value. And then we need to turn this to 0. We're just sending in one value. This will apply to all the fixtures. If we want to control them individually, we would need to send in lists of 4 values for red, green, and blue separately. So what we could do is grab swatch. We can unpack this. We make a pack with 4 values here. Duplicate, connect this up. And then by doing this, we now have a swatch for our first light. And I can duplicate this 4 times. So adding the second one as well. Here we've got the second one. Can still control the first one individually, and just duplicating it again, we'll get the third one. I guess it's clear where this is going. The problem maybe of this is you can see that it's already getting a little bit messy in terms of patching. So another approach you can take is adding multiple tags to each light. So you don't need to only specify one tag per light. You can have multiple ones. So I'm gonna call this one par 1, par 2, par 3, and this can be as many as you want. So we can also say par par first half, par second half, par front of house, par back of house, par roof, par floor. Any combination we can use, and then just specifying the tag here will control the lights with that specific tag. So now we do the swatch thing, use perpend RGB, and now we're controlling the first light. I can duplicate this, call this part 2. We can simply connect both cables to the same beam output, and the signals will be merged together, like MSP. Can add a third one as well. Again, I guess you can see where this is going. So that's option 2. 1, using lists in the same tag. 2, using separate tags. But since we're dealing with color, what you can also do is use beam.matrix. And we're going to use param red, green, blue, like we've seen. And now what's interesting, I think, is that now the problem isn't like a beam problem anymore. It's like a jitter problem. It's like what we need to do is figure out how to create the right texture with the right values. And, jitter is massive in its capabilities, and it would just be silly to not use all the value that the help files have, all the examples that are on the forum, on the cycling website, on YouTube videos. Like this knowledge that you have from using jitter, you can apply this to as well. And actually the thing we need is in a help file of JIT matrix. So let's remove this. We just need to repatch this a little bit because we're not controlling a RGB, but we just have RGB. I'll do a little JIT.p window and cell 00. Oh yeah, this is what I did wrong the last time as well. We need to bang it. So here we go. So now I'm controlling the amount of red in this for this specific pixel in the texture. I can add some yellow. I can go to the second pixel, which is immediately being set. And like I said, just use jitter features to create the texture that you need and control it this way. This was option 3. Fourth and final option, and this is maybe a bit kind of like running ahead in terms of, I guess, complexity, but I want to just show it because it is a very powerful way that you can also work with Beam. And that's by basically avoiding this whole tagging system altogether. So what I need is just beam.snapshot. And I'm going to inspect this dictionary of the beam values. So right now, what you can see is that there are 4 lights. They have like this weird, unique ID. And this is a way you can create dictionaries of data yourself and then create a beam signal out of it. And these IDs, this is how you can target specific fixtures. So I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to make beam.sig and beam.output, connecting this one. And now I'm just going to do dict.pack, put in this ID. And now do dict.pack again, red, green, blue. Oh yeah, and this is also what I did wrong.
Thank you.
when we tried this, add the trigger stuff. Oh, put it a little bit down. And here, triggers -1. So now, again, we're turning on the red in this for this light, add a little bit of yellow. And basically, if we just look at it, this is what we're doing, right? We're creating a dictionary that says red, green, blue of this ID. And you can then generate these dictionaries from anywhere. Again, Luca is going to show a little bit of an example that does this. But you can imagine, and this is actually what we did for a club in Amsterdam called Club Air. And we built a React interface that was then hosted by Node.script. And this whole React interface was like a custom lighting desk that I think they would also run on an iPad.
Right, and iPads and mobile phones of people working in the club.
So people could just like connect to a website that was exposing a custom-made interface. This was sending, like generating the dictionaries, and then the dictionary just went into a beam.sig object and beam.output, and you're done. So this makes like the beamness kind of like small. You kind of like solve it in Max again, and you can leverage Node script, JWeb, whatever, to generate the content in the way that you want, and then just leverage Beam mostly in this fixture patching way, address handling, ArtNet, and USB DMX output. And we're going to show a fun way to do that in a bit. Good news is that we're at the point where we're just going to show 2 examples.
Do we have time for that?
I think we should take time for it if that's if that's okay. I don't know how you are, Tom.
That's totally cool, guys. Please
correct. I wanted to show 2 more examples. I will just start with the audio off. So the first example is just a bit more of something with beam.catch and MC. That's a wrong instance of Max. So over here. And we can use the same patch and lighting rig. So you can hear the sound. Just crank it up a bit. So what is happening here is we've got MC.reson with 4 resonant filters that are receiving some noise. So that creates this kind of whistly, noisy oscillators, basically. And all that's happening is it's a bit inspired by Girard and Murai and French spectral composers, I think they call them. So it generates kind of like harmonic like chunks of harmonic spectra. So you've got like lowest frequency that's generated every time this thing over here starts a new cycle. So what is happening here is we've got noise. It goes through sample and hold, and whenever this sample and hold values go above 0.9, you can see here, and this happens, then mc.edge sends back, and that creates that basically makes this counter go through sequence, and every time sequence finishes, we got a bang going into the cycle receipt. That's basically the patch. And over here, whenever there's a new cycle, we have a new base frequency, and then we use the MC increment message. So we've got the base frequency, and then for each base frequency, we've got 3 more frequencies that are in whatever this value is apart from each other. So I just thought that's nice to mention. And besides that, we've got some amplitude LFOs, and that creates this kind of pulsating effect, both in sound and in lights, because over here we have beam.tag bar controlling the same light that Hida was working with before. And then we are receiving these LFOs over here. I don't know why I call it const, but oh yeah, it's kind of like a constant thing. And that's controlling the dim or intensity of these 4 bar lights. And yeah, so 4 MC channels mapped to 4 pictures. And then besides that, also whenever basically a new trigger happens, or whenever we get the value over 0.9, we have these envelopes happening in addition to that. So when you hear sound, it's a combination of the LFO and the envelopes, and we are multiplying that to control the amplitude of the sound. But we are also doing the same over here with another instance of beam.tag controlling parse. And I wanted to mention this because it shows that you can have any number of beam.tag or any objects controlling the same fixtures, and their signals or values are going to be merged. So you can do same kind of summing like you are used to with MSP. You can also do it signal.
Yeah, it's like thinking in 2 layers, right? So you've got like a layer that does like a little flickering, and then a layer that are like these accents on top of it. And you use the same beam.tag with the same tag for them, but then they just get combined and added together in actually a bit more complicated way, where we have a lot of details about it in the help files as well.
Yeah, so I think that's enough for this one. I just want to show another thing that we can do with this same patch. So let's say that we put this up at the local venue, and mayor was there and was way too excited about it, and they thought, well, we've got an event coming tomorrow, and we've got 128 moving heads. Can you make it? And then you are overwhelmed. How can we adapt that? But actually, we shouldn't be overwhelmed, because if we open this file, we've got 128 moving heads, which is a common situation. I think we need to have the IO editor to send all the core universes that we will be sending when we load this picture patch that contains all these 128 moving heads. So I just want you to pay attention to this detail. Basically, all of the moving heads in this patch have heads tag assigned to them. So previously we had a bunch of, or 4 pars that had the par tag, but now we have these heads. So all we had to do in the Max patch to make it work with this new setup is just load a new picture patch, and these 4 MC channels audio are distributed across the 128 pictures. And then, because it's moving heads, then we should, of course, also do something with the movement. Oh, it's already here. We've got an additional beam.catch that maps cycle or sine wave LFO to this parameter that is specified here, so tilt. So you can see how you can use this MC messages to basically create a lot of, or like rich movement with one message. That's pretty nice. MC being mapped to different things. And then finally, let's also do something with pen. I'm not gonna patch it up so that we don't lose too much time, but basically here is another or like the next step in this patch, where what I also did was I changed the channel values of the MC object to 128. So you see a bit more granular control over individual lights, and also the quality of sound changes. And then edit another layer. We just stuff, layer where banks are triggering.
A little bit more there because
Oh yeah.
Our video window.
Yeah, cool. So we've got peak trigger or bank triggering dot noise, creating matrices of 128 by 1, controlling the pen parameter. So that's all for this example, but I want to show one more thing. So let's say that the installation or whatever you call it was successful, but the floor manager thought it was a bit abrasive and they just want some nice ambient lighting, but we're not feeling so inspired. And I thought maybe we can do something with beam.sig. I will switch to another lighting rig with 16 moving heads. And I will just change the patch as well. And
I check that it's
in the... Oh yeah, it's still receiving all the 4 universes, but I think that's okay. So maybe just to be sure, I will just check if this is still doing something. So in the new patch, the fixtures also have the heads tag assigned to them. And yeah, so this still works. So in this next patch, I'm using the beam.snapshot that Hide was showing before to get to see what fixtures are in the signal. And as you can see here, the fixture keys are not as crazy as what we had before. Those IDs that was generated automatically by Beam, but over here I just manually gave them some kind of human readable IDs, and you can do that by basically opening the fixture patch and editing the ID field. But over here, we are just getting the keys of the fixtures. We are not really interested in the modulations right now. So you can see fixture 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, up until 16. And we want to create a lighting preset that will contain for each of those lights these modulations. Let's take the shutter out, because that can sometimes be a bit unexpected. And now let's describe a lighting atmosphere. So let's say an atmosphere resembling northern lights, mostly green hues. And so prompt was submitted. And let's see what happens. Takes a while. It's normal still. Yeah, so we've got something kind of resembling what we wrote. And this is using OpenAI API. So you can see here, got a prompt. You are to generate a lighting control preset, blah, blah, blah. User input, user output. And basically, I mean, that's something still quite new for me, but I realized you can make Open AI API kind of quite expectably send you JSON objects, which is perfect for beam.sig. So let's try another one.
maybe the Californian sunset.
Oh yeah.
For Tom.
Oh yeah.
And wow.
I guess it's kind of sunsetty.
Wow, guys, what have you done?
Cool.
Nice.
I think this is like all the stuff we wanted to talk about. Like we touched on quite a lot of stuff, and I mean it's almost like already an hour and a half. But yeah, we talked about like how DMX works and fixture profiles and how to put them in a patch. We showed the patch editor, the IO editor, the monitor that Beam4Max has, and how to connect everything to actual physical lights. We've seen like basic Max patches. We went through all some of the objects that Beam4Max ships, and just wanting to mention again that these help files are quite extensive, mostly thanks to Luca as well. Um, so there's a lot of information there that we didn't touch on. We looked at controlling the same lights and the same lights in the same way, like with the same outcome, but in different approaches with different objects, and then using Max features like MC and Node.script, jitter to control your lights with that. And I think that's all we have for today.
But some questions, are there still questions,
Questions
waiting to be answered?
Maybe we stop screen sharing.
Listen.
Yeah, let's throw it open to questions. Folks, we've got a few more minutes here. We've got the guys. Uh, you've seen the package. It's a great time to ask any questions and get an immediate answer.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, an immediate answer. If
It
not,
will be it
the
will
guys
be
are all
immediate.
part of the Discord, so you can always talk to the guys later. They're in Discord. They're around. They're very very approachable fellas. Uh, yeah, Todd. I love Todd Reynolds' use case. Like, randomly has a student wants to do lights, and like 3 days later, they're putting on a whole light show. Um, yeah, this video we'll get this up pretty quickly. We'll try and have it up later today, if not tomorrow. Um, yeah, and Showsync has their own Discord. That's actually a really good spot to just get in touch directly with the guys, ask any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing about dumping the prompt results to dictionaries and have them as presets. Think like this works, of course, also outside of prompt results. So you can make a whole set of presets yourself in dictionaries and then connect it to a MIDI controller to scroll through your presets. Use UDP receive to get it from an iPad or whatever. Mira, you can
Yeah.
use maybe. Uh, I guess like I haven't really tried it out, but you can think of ways to leverage pattern and pattern storage and the interpolation
Mm.
that's there, and then just turn that turn those different parameters into a dictionary and leverage everything Max has in that way. So I like the dictionaries, I think, are like the way to open everything up the most. It's not like the most straightforward, like with beam.tag, where you just say like, well, these lights with this tag, dim1, or, put that signal through a beam.matrix. But yeah, the dictionaries really, if you like want to have a custom UI, custom interface, custom way of interacting with it, I think generating the dictionaries is one of the most powerful ways that we have.
Mm. Very cool. Very cool. Folks, this has been an awesome session. Hide Luca, Jean Paul, Shay, thank you guys so much for dropping in and presenting this. I think, I mean, the package for me is very approachable, and I think you've gone ahead successfully with this Discord presentation and demystified it further. It integrates so well with Max that it just feels natural. Um, and yeah, not much else, guys. Stick around.
Thank
Stick around. Stick around on the Zoom call.
Yeah,
And
we'll do.
folks, we'll see you around for the next Discord office hours. Announcements soon.
Please make some lighting shows.
Oh yeah. Post your
Fa-
lighting
oh,
stuff. Post your lighting stuff in
yeah.
the Discord.
And reach out if you have questions. I think there are also, of course, always opportunities for new objects or new features. Like we're keen on hearing that. And thanks so much for inviting us.
Thanks
Tom.
for having us.
I just posted a little lighting inspiration for
Oh
everyone.
yeah,
Oh
that's the
yeah.
one you talked about. I'll have to watch it.
Just a
Yeah.
little lighting inspiration for you all. Just because you don't have a venue doesn't mean you can't do lighting.
Yes. I
If you
mean
have a
all the
bedroom, you're good.
I mean that's where it all starts, right? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
watching in your room, making music in your
I actually want
bedroom.
to go and see this kid play live. I want to see it live. I want to be there. It makes me so
A Mac
happy,
user.
right? I mean, that's why we do this, for fun, for excitement. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Folks, check out Showsync Beam for Max. It's in the Max Package Manager. You can try it yourself. Give it a spin. It's immediately able to work. There's a small demo limitation. These guys are putting in some big work on this. I highly recommend supporting them. This is really well put together package. Thanks, guys.
You.
Thank you too.
Okay,
Thank
folks, bye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.